start with is to give you an overview of the approach of the European Commission in this area. So what I'll talk about is why is it that the Commission cares about these issues. Then I will give you a quick overview of European policy development at this level. Then I will talk more specifically about concrete initiatives that already exist. And then I'll have a few words on conclusions and next steps. So what is it that moves the Commission to work in this area of access to scientific information, access to open access more generally? Okay, well, of course, the point of departure is the importance of access, dissemination, also preservation for research. In order to build on former research, we need good access. In order to avoid research duplication, we need good access. And there's a notion from the point of view of funding bodies, such as the European Commission, that the internet has led to unprecedented possibilities in this area, but that these are maybe not yet sufficiently exploited. So the approach is that there's a need to improve return on investment in R&D to maximize socioeconomic impact. And then, quite frankly, it's also a question of principle, right? There should be reliable access to the results funded by taxpayers' money. Of course, we're also aware of international developments. So there are many existing open access policies developing who welcome trust. The National Institutes of Health, also universities like Harvard have developed policies. And then the Commission also takes into account the views of scientific publishers, the need for a fair remuneration for the added value that they bring to the scientific publication process. Now, all this also has a legal foundation. If you look at the current European Community Treaty, you will see that the community shall have the objective of strengthening the scientific and technological bases of community industry and encouraging it to become more competitive. And, next article, in pursuing these objectives, the European community is responsible for dissemination and optimization of the results and activities in community research. Okay, so there is really a legal foundation for these activities in terms of access and dissemination. Now, if we look at the future treaty on the functioning of the European Union, the Lisbon Treaty, there's an evolution. And this evolution consists in the fact that we are talking in the treaty about the European research area. So the new treaty, the new article, corresponding article reads as follows. The Union shall have the objective of strengthening its scientific and technological basis by achieving a European research area in which researchers, scientific knowledge, and technology circulate freely. Okay? So again, there really is a legal and an evolving legal basis for community activities in this area. Now, if we go down a level, so we have the treaty. Now, how is that implemented? We move then to the Lisbon Agenda, which you all know, for the EU to become the most competitive and dynamic knowledge-based economy in the world. And this, again, is implemented via specific programs. One of these is the European Research Area, which I've already mentioned. So the idea here is a sort of an internal market for research, in which there is free movement of researchers, of technology, and also of knowledge. And then there's another pillar, which is I-2010, a European Information Society for Growth and Employment. And here the idea is to create a single information space to strengthen ICT innovation and to achieve a better inclusion for ICT. Okay, so these two, the European Research Area and I-2010 are the two main pillars via which the European Commission implements its policies on access to scientific information. In our program is the possibility of reimbursement of publication costs, so the gold open access route. The way it works basically is that Well, basically, publication costs are defined as eligible costs under the 7th Framework Program. They are part of so-called other activities. It's very technocratic, but that is how we classify them. And basically, projects can claim reimbursement up to 100% for these costs. The limitation now is that is limited to the duration of the project. Okay, we know that a lot of publications come out of projects after the project ends. So that's currently the limitation to that. And of course, our interest here is to monitor the uptake of this option to see how much it's used and whether we should continue this possibility in the 8th Framework Program. And now I come to the open access pilot in FP7. So we talked about ERC, that's one part of FP7, and here we come now to the rest of FP7. So this pilot was launched in August of this year. It's a pilot, so it covers about 20% of the 7th Framework Program budget. It is based on green open access, so self-archiving. And it applies to 7 areas of the 7th Framework Program with 2 different embargo periods. For a 6-month embargo period, it covers health, energy, environment, parts of ICT, and parts of research infrastructures. And for a 12-month embargo period, socioeconomic sciences and humanities, and science and society. Okay. Okay, the legal basis, so what actually makes this pilot possible is a special clause, which was adopted in August. And what this clause does is that it requires deposit of an electronic copy, published version or final manuscript, in an institutional or subject-based repository at the moment of publication. Okay, so we're dividing the deposit from the actual open access question. So step 1 is deposit. Step 2 is that researchers are required to make their best efforts to ensure that this electronic copy becomes available open access, either immediately if the publication is published in gold open access, or within 6 or 12 months, depending on the research area. And this clause applies to all new FP7 grant agreements that are signed after August 2008 in the areas that I mentioned.